Welcome back. We'll update you on the prison bills, some probable extinct species, and a miracle strip ride. I'm Mike Morgan, and we're down in Alabama. The Alabama House of Representatives, now days into its special session on Justice Department-ordered prison improvements, has passed a three-bill legislative package to build two new large men's prisons, reports AL.com's Mike Kaysen. One bill was to approve the building of the prisons. One was to use $154 million from the state's general fund to pay for part of it, and the other was to use $400 million of federal money out of the American Rescue Plan to pay for another part of it. The rest of the cost, some $785 million, would be funded with a bond issue. Now, the voting fell largely along party lines, of course, with most Republicans in favor of the prison building proposal and most Democrats opposed. Although the votes were similar for all three bills, the Democrats' criticism has focused largely on the use of federal COVID relief money. Representative Chris England, a Tuscaloosa Democrat, called it morally wrong and characterized the plan as spending COVID money on incarceration. Now these three bills move to the Senate, where there could be a vote by Friday. Another part of what lawmakers are looking at during this special session are sentencing reforms. And on Wednesday, one reform bill passed the House, but another died. The one that passed would expand a mandatory supervised release to all inmates, rather than just the ones who were convicted after a law was passed in 2015. That law said that most inmates will end their sentence on supervised release rather than having to stay in prison until their sentence expires. The release period could vary from 3 months up to a year. Now, the idea here is that you get inmates out of prison a little quicker, maybe lessen the prison population, and hopefully give the inmates a head start on adjusting to life back on the outside. Now, the other bill would have allowed nonviolent offenders convicted before October 1st, 2013 to apply for new sentences under the current sentencing guidelines that were put into place on that date, but it was defeated in the House. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service says it believes that 7 species in Alabama currently listed as endangered are actually extinct, reports AL.com's Dennis Pillion. After extensive searches throughout the animal's known habitat, the service has proposed removing them from the endangered species list. They include one bird, the Bachman's warbler, which was common 100 years ago and wintered in Cuba. Its numbers were low by the 1950s. The Wildlife Service blames loss of mature forest habitat in both the U.S. and Cuba and the collection of the warbler's feathers. Alabama's other 6 species on the list are all freshwater mussels. Conservationists point to dam construction and sedimentation and pollution in rivers for causing the mussels' extinction. The species are the southern acorn shell, stirrup shell, upland comb shell, turgid blossom pearly mussel, yellow blossom pearly mussel, and the tubercle blossom pearly mussel. Going beyond Alabama, the Wildlife Service has a total of 23 species it believes are extinct and proposes to remove them from the endangered species list. That includes the ivory-billed woodpecker. Now, there hadn't been a sighting of an ivory-billed woodpecker since 1944 that a consensus of conservationists agree on, except, of course, anybody out there who might have seen one riding in perched on the shoulder of an Alabama black cougar being chased by a blue dog Democrat. But we'll have to see trail cam footage of that. For those of you who years ago spent some lost summer weekends or spring breaks on Panama City Beach, a familiar amusement park ride has spent the past decade plus here in Alabama, reports AL.com's Kelly Kasich. Miracle Strip Amusement Park was in business on Front Beach Road from the 1960s through 2004. One of the popular rides at the park was the Haunted Castle, where the ride's cars would run on a track through rooms that had spooky scenes. You might remember standing on the ground at Miracle Strip outside the haunted house and watching riders holler as their cars came by that window that acted like it was about to break apart. Well, the Haunted Castle ride was bought in 2005, and parts of it were used around Halloween time for Boo at the Zoo in Birmingham. Then in 2009, it was acquired by Jeremy Cruz, who owns the Terroritorium Haunted House and Amusements in Oxford, Alabama. It was reassembled there in 2010, and that's where it can be found each October on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights, plus every night during the week of Halloween. Thank y'all so much for listening. Hey, if you want to, leave us a rating and maybe some feedback on whatever app you use. They say that gets us suggested to more potential listeners, which in turn helps grow our audience and gives me bragging rights with the people I work for. But more important than that, I hope you're back with us tomorrow. Until then, we'll be open for you on the internet at al.com.